What's going on YouTube? It's TH back again with another video, and today we are reacting to Charles Davis's first mock draft of the 2023 draft cycle. Excited to dive into this, and actually before we get started, Charles Davis may not be like the name of the mock drafter that you think I'm reacting to, but I really do respect Charles Davis, and just in case y'all don't know, I haven't been around the channel all that long. I'm a sports broadcaster. I do play-by-play for various schools up and down the East Coast, and love doing that. And often I get asked, what's your favorite, booth? Like, who's your favorite broadcast duo? And focusing solely on football, a lot of times you'll hear, is it Buck Aikman? Is it, Nance Romo? Is it, Tirico Collinsworth or Michaels Collinsworth when they were on Sunday Night Football? And I love all those guys. There's not really a wrong answer here, but to me, it's easily Ian Eagle and Charles Davis. I love watching these guys and listening to these guys call games. Every time they finish a broadcast, I start to think like, man, I wish I could just go grab a beer with these guys. They're just so personable, and they feel like an extension of the couch every time they call a game. So I bring that into my own broadcast and hopefully even into these YouTube videos. So all that to say, really excited to see what Charles has to say in his first mock draft. But as we go along, be sure to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who's your favorite squad? Do you like the picks or do you not? And let me hear why. But let's go ahead and jump into this now. CJ Stroud goes 1, Bryce Young goes 2. Kind of talked about this in the Jeremiah mock earlier this week. I think it's going to be some combination of this. To me, it should be Young then Stroud. But, you look at the betting markets and, how, the coaching staff reacted to CJ Stroud's pro day, the Carolina coaching staff, that is. It feels like he might be their guy. So if it ultimately becomes Stroud, Young, okay, I would go Young, Stroud, and that becomes really interesting to watch Carolina and see how that QB selection ultimately plays out. Then the Cardinals take Will Anderson. No real surprise here. Same start to pretty much every mock that we react to and grade, but I can't complain about it. They needed, a blue chip defender. They lose Zach Allen. They lose Byron Murphy. They need an identity on that side of the ball, and Will Anderson would definitely give you that. And then Anthony Richardson goes for the Colts. Again, I'm kind of getting a feeling that he's their guy. You start Gardner Minshew for a year, or, I'd be all for Anthony Richardson starting some point during his rookie year, and I'd love to see it be week 1, but it may take a little bit of time. And Gardner Minshew definitely gives you a good buffer. I'm familiar with Shane Steichen, and plus, with Steichen's background, working with Herbert his rookie year, getting to be the OC and working with Hurts the last 2 years, but really being the play caller for the back half that first year in Philly, and then obviously this past season when they make it to the Super Bowl. I'd love to see him try to continue that type of success with a guy like Anthony Richardson, who has all the tools you could possibly want in a quarterback. Just got to find that consistency and make every throw kind of look the same. So I'd love to see if Steichen can get that out of him. And then Seattle takes Tyree Wilson. Wouldn't doubt it. Jalen Carter definitely makes sense here, but I could see where they opt for the safer route. I'm also kind of playing around with an idea of a mock where them or the Lions even move up to 3. Just that little bit of extra security, and they go get a blue chipper that doesn't have any, off the field concerns. So something I'm thinking about both for Seattle as well as Detroit, the two teams I've kind of long said I think are the, real floor for Jalen Carter. Maybe the absolute nuclear basement is like 9 and 10. But if they did opt to go Tyree Wilson, it's a different body type than what they have in the edge room right now with, Darrell Taylor and Uchenna Nwosu and Boye Mafe. You add some more size, you add some more length, and that's kind of been Seattle's MO. So I think the fit makes a lot of sense. You're getting some additional run defense reinforcements right away, and you're getting a guy who's coming off the best year of his college career. So hopefully that progression continues. And then the Lions at 6 take Nolan Smith. Man, I'm pretty sure I've had a mock go public and published where Nolan Smith goes 8. To me, that's about when it starts. You start having conversations about Nolan Smith at 8, but here at 6, this could be fascinating. Jalen Carter's a better football player, and obviously coming from the same school, it's just tough. Like, one guy has maturity issues coming from Georgia, and then one guy's the team captain for Georgia. So it's like, how much do you weigh that here? But yeah, man, with Tyree Wilson off the board, I think I'd go Jalen Carter here, but I don't hate it. James Houston is like 6'1", 245, or maybe even 240 flat. So to me, I think he's best utilized as like a DPR where he doesn't have to be on the field in, run stopping situations because teams are to run at him because he's light. And he doesn't really stop the run at a super high level, at least based off the 1 year sample size that we have. Nolan Smith is also a little small, but plays the run really, really well. And maybe part of that's how Georgia, lines these guys up, because he's also had interviews where he talked about because of the alignment, he didn't really get to take on tackles one-on-one, and that's why the pass rush numbers aren't there. But that being said, if we're going to use that as a potential boost to what could be there as a pass rusher, we also have to take into account how it might put him in better position to be a good run defender. So something to consider, some food for thought there. But this would be a really interesting fit. We had a mock last week I reacted to where he fell to 18. I know a lot of Lions fans weren't crazy about it then, and I just think there's a different edge set, or like let's go get a 3-tech defender, or let's trade back here. I don't know if Charles is doing a whole lot of trades in this, if any, but nonetheless, this would be interesting. I would be shocked on draft night if this happened. But at the same time, adding one more guy into the mix, can they add more pass rush juice? Sure. And Nolan Smith is a really exciting prospect. So don't absolutely hate it. I think I'd just go with someone else there. Then Devon Witherspoon. So another mock draft where we see Witherspoon as the first guy off the board. That's kind of interesting. Feels like Gonzalez has kind of become that consensus dude, but Witherspoon, really good man press tape. And I think when push comes to shove, that's what Patrick Graham wants to run. He does mix up his coverages a lot, and so I would be interested to see how Witherspoon could maybe adjust to those zone schemes. I don't really think it should be an issue. Really excited to see what the testing numbers look like because he didn't do that at the combine. Came in a little bit lighter and a little bit smaller than maybe a lot of people were hoping. But nonetheless, you got to trust the tape, and also a really willing tackler and a really hard hitter at that. So that could be something that the Raiders really like there as well. Then the Falcons take Myles Murphy. Feels like it's been a while since we've seen Myles Murphy in the top 10. Feels like it's been some time. But hey, if the Falcons are like, hey, we have a little bit of time to work with, we're going to play this guy at the edge. We could also kick him inside, kind of like what the Jags have with Travon Walker. I'm listening. You bring in David Onyemata, feels like it shores up the inside a little bit, and with 6'5", 270, we're on one side of the Falcons' defensive line in that pass rush spot. It's going to be Arnold Ebiketie, who's a little bit lighter, wins with speed and finesse. Murphy, we really don't know what he wins with because he doesn't really have a moveset yet, so he's definitely a work in progress. But adding someone with that size and could be a power, profile makes me feel that much better having complementary skill sets, but also twitchy athleticism. So yeah, he's big and he's heavy and he can set the edge, and he's already a pretty solid run defender in my books. But yeah, figure out that pass rush skill set. With that athleticism, he gets really, really scary, and then hopefully a step forward from Arnold Ebiketie this year, and then hopefully the Falcons figure out that pass rush. I'm more inclined to go corner than edge, though, if I'm the Falcons versus the other way around, just in my opinion. Then we get to the Bears. This is where Jalen Carter comes off the board. Again, I think this is like the nuclear basement for Jalen Carter in his draft stock, 9 or 10. Definitely don't think the Eagles are going to pass on him, pairing him up with Jordan Davis would just be unfair, honestly. But for the Bears, hey, you move all the way back to 9. And, where 2 months ago we were saying, hey, they want to stay in the top 4 so they can still get Carter or Anderson. They go all the way back to 9 and still get one of those two guys. So be a win. Obviously, a lot of the off-the-field stuff is going to be, troublesome for people. And it comes down to what you think about his maturity. But I'm not in the interview process. I'm not talking to him, unfortunately. I wish I could, but I am not. So I can't really weigh that. All I know is he's a blue-chip player in this class. And to me, again, taking the off-the-field stuff aside, the best non-quarterback in this class, just by a hair over Will Anderson. And I like having that interior disruptor. It's pivotal for Matt Eberflus's defense, but we've seen with guys like Aaron Donald and Jeffrey Simmons and plenty of others, when you have that interior disruptor, it really changes what offenses can do against you, and it feels like a major force multiplier for your entire pass rush core. Then we get to the Eagles at 10. They take Bijan Robinson. Man, I would pray that this happens. I know this is not for a lot of Eagles fans, but Bijan behind that offensive line would be insane. Plus, one more pass catcher to deal with, like A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, isn't enough. Yeah, let's throw Bijan Robinson in the mix and really give defenses fits. Yes, I know they brought in Rashad Penny, but Kenny Gainwell also towards the end of his contract. I think he's got 2 more years on that rookie deal. Maybe it's just 1. And with Bijan's receiving ability, that could be the 1-2 punch, Penny and Bijan. But also, if memory serves, Rashad Penny, that was just a 1-year contract, at most 2. So even that isn't really the grand scheme of things long term. And also, if you're Philadelphia, you have a good offensive line, and you could have the best 5 years of Bijan Robinson's career. Maybe he gets better on that second contract, but for running backs, that's typically not the case. So prime Bijan Robinson with that O-line, Jalen Hurts in the backfield, what are defensive ends supposed to do in the option game there? It's a lose-lose proposition. So would love to see this, but is Howie Roseman the guy who doesn't draft linebackers? He doesn't draft safeties high. Is he going to draft a running back? Probably not. Titans then take Peter Skoronski. Yeah, I still think offensive line is in play here. I know they added Brunskill from San Francisco. They signed Dillard, and maybe you could be convinced that's enough. And then, Dylan Radunz kicking inside to guard is good and fine. We're well there. Maybe. They could also add a center. Maybe Peter Skoronski can do that. He literally was recruited to go to Northwestern to play center. I think he can play anywhere on the offensive line. So maybe it's a camp battle with Radunz at right guard. Or maybe it's moving Dillard inside, kicking Brunskill over to right guard, and Skoronski's can play left tackle. Or Skoronski's can play left guard, and Brunskill's flipping over to the other side. They can break out in a lot of different ways. There really isn't a wrong way of having this play out. I just think taking Skoronski here does give the Titans a fair amount of insurance and some comfortability knowing that offensive line is not going to be a weakness. Moving on now, the Houston Texans take Jackson Smith and Jigba. So Do I like them addressing wide receiver here? Yes. And would I be surprised if JSN is the first wide receiver off the board? Absolutely not. Honestly, he'd be my bet that he's the first wide out off the board. Where I have questions here is Robert Woods kind of become a guy that lives out of the slot. He did play outside for the Rams, but with the injury to his ACL a couple years ago, I don't know if he has that juice anymore. Maybe he's slot only, maybe he's not. They're the ones who signed him, and they got to see the physical, so they would know better than me. But if Robert Woods can kick out wide, all right, I'm more here for this. What do you do with John Mechie III then as he recovers from leukemia? Obviously, still wishing him the best and prayers up for him. Maybe this is your Mechie III insurance and potentially just an upgrade there. Mechie III was a day 2 pick versus Jackson Smith-Njigba here coming off the board at 12. So could it be an upgrade? Sure. And then do you just have John Mechie III waiting in the wings? Yeah. And is that the end of the world? No. Find upgrades, make your team better, right? Like that's all you can do in the offseason, right? Just try to find ways to make your team better. You drafted a quarterback at 2. Got to find a guy that he can throw to. And JSN is that high volume slot type, would be really interesting. And hey, maybe I'm overlooking something here. Maybe JSN can't play on the outside. I'm thinking he's slot only. And if Robert Woods can make that move to the outside, then it's him, it's Nico Collins, and JSN in the slot. It's not a bad wide receiver trio, but it really does come down to me if Robert Woods can make that move. Jets take Calijah Kancey. All right. We've had back-to-back mock reactions now where the Jets have not gone off into tackle, and my God, it's very refreshing. Both defensive line picks, it was Nolan Smith, if memory serves, and Jeremiah, and then Kancey here in Davis's mock. But dude, pairing him up with Quinnen Williams would be really, really interesting. They lost some of their run-stopping DTs, like Sheldon Rankins in free agency, and Calijah Kancey is not that. So, maybe if you're looking for that type of dude, maybe it's Keanu Benton if they get to keep their second-rounders, or maybe it's even taking a shot on Gervon Dexter, in the second or maybe even third if he falls that far. This would be interesting, though. But the pass rush juice on the inside of Kancey plus Quinnen Williams would be unfair for guards and centers. Like, typically speaking, you put your better pass protectors, they end up playing tackle, and then your better run blockers play on the inside. So that could give Kancey some fits because I don't really know if he's going to be much in the way of being a run defender at a high level. But his pass rush skill set and his get-off gave college guards fits. And maybe you can do the same thing at the NFL level. And then him and Quinnen Williams, again, that would just be, I legitimately just don't know what interior offensive line is supposed to do to stop that. Then we get to the Patriots. Paris Johnson Jr. falls right in their lap. To me, the best offensive tackle in this class. You move Trent Brown back over to right tackle. And then Riley Reif, who's on like a 1-year, $5 million contract, becomes a very starting experienced swing tackle. And that is an awesome situation to find yourself in if you're New England. So if the board played out like this, I'd be very, very happy with how this plays out. I think Trent Brown's also better at right tackle. So if this were to play out, I'd be a very happy Patriots fan. Could they go wide receiver? Sure. But also to get OT1, it's very Bill Belichick, very New England. And it really does shore up a question mark long term as well. Not just this year, but like 3 years down the line. Who's that starting left tackle for New England? I'm not really sure we have that answer on roster. And then the Packers at 15 take Dalton Kincaid. I know a lot of people like this fit. And in a future mock, I am planning on doing a pass catcher here or putting a pass catcher here for Green Bay. And if there's anything that will get Green Bay to take a wide receiver or a tight end in the first round, it's Aaron Rodgers leaving. I just think that relationship is soured so much that if there's anything to incentivize Gutekunst, the GM for Green Bay, to grab a pass catching skill position player here, it's to stick it to Aaron Rodgers. Which at that point, let's see Rodgers in 1 year in New York, and then he's going to go to Minnesota, be the replacement for Kirk Cousins. He's going to totally live out the Brett Favre arc, and then he's going to stick it to Green Bay right back. Because at this point, they're just trying to one-up each other for who's most petty here. Nonetheless, if we're basing this off of previous Packers draft tendencies in history, I doubt it. I doubt it. It's going to be offensive line or it's going to be somewhere on the defensive side. Maybe it's an edge rusher, maybe it's a safety. But would it be awesome to see them add a tight end with the dynamism that is, Kincaid's game, and also great yards after the catch ability, good runner, athlete as well. Michael Mayer, a little bit more middle of the road tight end athleticism. So go up and above and see what Kincaid is all about. See if he can be that little bit more special, or even Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's not available in this mock, but if JSN were available at 15, are you adding him as your slot guy? Because that could be really potent with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. Again, basing this off of what the Packers have done in the past, I don't really think it's likely. But when you take into consideration that Gutekunst might want to stick it to Rodgers, as petty as that sounds, and as much as that should not be a team's draft strategy, it might be enough of incentive for them to make that move. So I'd love to see it play out there because, dude, at this point, just put the NFL on Bravo because this is some reality TV. Then we get to the Commanders. O'Cyrus Torrence. Yeah, I mean, I really don't rule out guard still being in play here. I've had mocks where they took Torrence. Yeah, they're going to move Cosby inside to play right guard. They signed Andrew Wiley. Yeah, and they got Josh Gates on a 3-year deal from New York, but he's also, not been a standout high-level guy. And also, he comes with center flexibility, so maybe that's some Chase Rollier insurance there. But if they think Torrence is the guy at 16, he's better than Andrew Norwell, he's younger than Andrew Norwell, and he's cheaper than Andrew Norwell. So I like this pick a ton. It's not the sexiest pick, but Ron Rivera wants to run the football. O'Cyrus Torrence will help you do that. O'Cyrus Torrence, that is, will help you do that. Then Joey Porter Jr. falls in the lap of the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of Steelers fans would be happy about this. His dad, of course, Steeler legend and Super Bowl champ. And Pittsburgh needs a number one guy. And I don't think Joey Porter Jr. has to just be a man press guy that plays, man press. He plays cover 2 zone where he's, squatting at the line of scrimmage, all that sort of stuff. I think there's more flexibility in his game. I mean, 4.45 40 to me signals enough athleticism to play different stuff. And I'll say, if you play man, you can play quarters. And if you can play quarters, you're basically playing a lane. And therefore, you're in a lot of ways kind of already playing cover 3, just with a little bit less, field responsibility. So I think there's a lot of things you can do with Joey Porter Jr. Yes, he looks like and has the potential to be an awesome man press corner, but I don't think that's all his game limits him to. But getting back to Pittsburgh here, they need cornerback help. Patrick Peterson is not an answer; he's a band-aid. They need to find someone who can be that number one shutdown guy. And this team's going to continue to have pass rush for the next handful of seasons. That's going to be their bread and butter. They're going to be Blitzburg, and they're going to generate a lot of sacks. So it really only takes one special corner to have that defense get back to where it was, 2 and 3 years. It's already been a good defense, but like 2 and 3 years ago when it was like pretty healthily considered or pretty widely considered the best defense in football, that's where Pittsburgh's trying to get back to. Anyways, Lions then at 18 take Christian Gonzalez, and I will tell you something, I do not think he makes it to 18. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, Pittsburgh should definitely take Christian Gonzalez at 17 if he is there. To me, he's CD1, both. I think he's NFL ready in a lot of ways, and his tape is good. Like, this is not a guy who is a project. He's not like Miles Murphy or Brian Brzee, where you look at this guy and you're like, look at what he could be, but he hasn't been that yet. Now, Gonzalez has been a really good corner already, and I think he has the potential to get that much better. He's a great fit for either scheme. He can play man press, which is what Aaron Glenn wants to do on a down-to-down basis, but also you run a lot of zone. I don't think Christian Gonzalez is, left out to dry there. Awesome athletic ability, awesome frame, and again, that scheme versatility. Also, he can play press, he can play off. I mean, I think there's a lot you can do with Gonzalez, and I'm actually a little shocked that he's the 3rd corner off the board, and if the Lions took him at 6, I wouldn't be mad, let alone get him at 18. That'd be a steal, in my opinion. Bucs take Broderick Jones. Wow, this would be awesome if the board played out this way. You get to keep Tristan Wirfs at right tackle, well, unless they think Broderick Jones is a right tackle, and I could see and understand that evaluation. He's not the most polished when it comes to his pass blocking. He's a mauler in the run game, has a lot of strength in his profile, a big, tall guy too. Maybe he does project better as a right tackle, and you are going to move Wirfs over to left tackle. However it plays out, a starting offensive tackle is much needed right now for Tampa Bay's offense, so this is fantastic value. A lot of times, Anton Harrison's my OT3, but when I say the big 3 for offensive tackles, it's Paris Johnson Jr., Peter Skoronski, Broderick Jones. More often than not, those are the first tackles off the board in mocks that you read or watch. So for one of those big 3 to make it all the way to 19, that'd be a big win for Tampa Bay. Seahawks then take Deonte Banks. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd be here for Seattle taking a corner. And especially if, like, in the second round, they drafted Julius Brents, just because I want to see 6'3", 6'6", 3 cone on one side, and then Tariq one on the other side at 6'4", running a 4.29. Like, oh my God, just have 2 pterodactyls on either side of the defensive line, or the of the secondary rather. But I think when they signed Julian Love, that was for him to play nickel corner basically, and then Kobe Bryant's going to stay on the outside. So I think they've addressed corner to the extent in which they are. At least if they add a corner, it's going to be like day 3, if I had to guess, or late round 3. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for Seattle. I'd love to see them add corner. I'm just not really sure that's the direction they're going to go in because they signed Julian Love. Then the Chargers at 21, Zay Flowers, same thing we talked about in the Jeremiah mock the other day. Where, yeah, this is just adding that speed element the Chargers don't have right now, but also Keenan Allen insurance. This may well be his last year in LA, so who's that slot wide receiver moving forward? I definitely think Zay Flowers can be that, but just the immediate need right now, getting some over-the-top speed, someone that can help Herbert push the ball down the field, help him take advantage of his arm and flip the field a lot more, that would be awesome to add. And then it'll come down to Kellen Moore, the new OC in LA, to try to unlock that out of Herbert, but also make sure that Flowers fits into that. And then we get the Ravens at 22 taking Jordan Addison. Yeah, I'd love to see this pairing, him and Rashad Bateman, two guys who, yeah, both actually kind of came in and weighed lighter than we expected, a little bit smaller than we expected. And Addison didn't have the most insane 40. I still don't think 4.49 is terrible. We'll see what happens at his pro day if he competes and if he runs. But having those two guys who are just natural route runners, naturally good at getting open, that is the harder skill to me. Like, yes, Addison's had points where he's battled drops and Bateman's had a hard time staying healthy. That's an issue. So Addison's also kind of just like injury insurance for Bateman if he continues to miss time. But the harder skill set to me is getting open versus drops. You can clean that up. If a guy can't get open, if a guy can't, beat a guy one-on-one, if he's not a good route runner, there's not a whole lot that you really could do that. Sure, you could coach it up and eventually get there, but these guys are naturals at it, and they're pros at it. So that's why I still think Addison should go round one. That's why I liked Rashad Bateman with where the Ravens got him, I think, at pick 20. So similar range even here where they're getting Addison. And I love to see that hopefully open up the offense, and hopefully Lamar Jackson's there. Getting him another outside wide receiver should make his life easier winning through the air. Then Will Levis falls all the way down to 23. So wow, the Jeremiah mock, he falls to 19, and I'm like, I don't really see it. I certainly don't see him falling to 23. Now, what could be interesting here is Minnesota doesn't have a second-round pick, but could they look to move up if Levis starts to fall? Like, if Levis makes it to 11, are they going to pull on Chicago with Justin Fields 2 years ago and be like, yeah, well, this guy should have gone in the top 10. We got to make a move. We got to do it. Chicago had, I think, a little bit more draft capital than the Vikings have right now, but one more year, Kirk Cousins, and then what comes after. So especially if Levis falls in your lap here at 23, take advantage of it. Find that future franchise quarterback. Take a swing of the bat. Yes, Will Levis is not for everybody, and right now he's my quarterback too. He's kind of 2A just ahead of Stroud, who's kind of a 2B. It just comes down to floor versus ceiling. I like the ceiling of Levis, so that's why he gets a little bit of the bump over Stroud. Nonetheless, I know he's not for everybody. Not a lot of people actually really like him. I'm sure Vikings fans, who have been relatively quiet, I don't get a whole lot of Minnesota fans in my comment section, but I'm sure this will be the pick that awakens the fan base. But I still think it would be the right pick. If he fell all the way to 23, yes, I know you need a corner. Yes, you need another wide receiver. But you also need an answer after Kirk Cousins. And this also sets up the door for them to move on from Kirk Cousins, have a rookie contract under center, and spend a lot of money elsewhere. So I love it for a lot of different reasons. And like I said, I don't really think he makes it to 23, but if he makes it to 11, and Tennessee's like, hey, we could draft him, but we could also use a lot more draft capital. Oh, Minnesota's calling? Let's listen. Like, I could see something like that playing out on draft night. But if you're a Vikings fan, let me know how much you would hate that, because I know that you're probably not excited about it. But Jags take Bryan Bresee. Really interesting. And I don't know if he could play that nose tackle spot. And they've already invested in the DN position too. You re-signed Roy Robertson-Harris, and you also have Folo Fatukasi there, who I thought Fatukasi was a nose, so maybe they're going to shift him over to play that nose tackle spot. And then Bresee slides in at the 3-tech. If that's the case, all right, I'm here for that. I'm listening. But if this was like the thinking of Bryan Bresee to become that nose, I'm not sure he's big enough for that. He's just over 300 pounds. But do I think the Jags can get better on the interior? Yeah, sure. I think there's an upgrade to be had there. And you're getting a solid run defender right away. You're getting a guy who's 6'5", like I said, just over 300 pounds, and a really good athlete and moves well for that size. And maybe because of the pieces that are already there with the extension to Robertson-Harris and Fatukasi already being there, maybe this allows you to say, hey, Bryan Bresee, you're going to be an early downs guy, help us stop the run, and then you're going to work with these guys, and in 2 years' time, we're going to then be relying on you to be a more competent pass rusher, because it's just not really there for him just yet. Needs to learn, it's the same stuff we talk about with Myles Murphy. Needs to learn a move set, needs to learn how to counter and stack moves on one another. He just needs to learn how to be a pass rusher from start to finish, really. And who knows, maybe he would have gotten there at Clemson if he wasn't hurt and didn't have the family tragedy this year. And also, maybe if he stuck at one position, he lined up across the entire defensive line. I don't know if that made his job easier or harder, but I could see a world where it played out either way. If it made it harder, maybe that's part of why Bresee's had a hard time kind of figuring it out as a pass rusher. But I like that value there for the Jags at 24. I think, 20s is when you start to think about when Bresee is going to come off the board. Giants take Quentin Johnston. Honestly, this feels like the wide receiver if they're going to take one in round one, who it has to be. Because, yes, I feel like, and I've been saying, Addison feels like their guy. But you bring back lighter Sterling Shepard, a little bit lighter Darius Slayton. Bring in, Paris Campbell, who's all speed, very light guy, and I think that might be part of why he's always hurt too. But that might also just be bad luck. And they already have some guys like that on the roster. Richie James too. So they might be looking for someone who's like bulkier. And at 6'4", 208 pounds, Quentin Johnston's one of the few guys that really brings that size and weight factor to the table, but also another speedy wide receiver, in addition to Shepard, who's got solid speed, Slayton, who's a deep threat, and Paris Campbell, who certainly has a lot of speed, and others, of course, in the mix as well. So this, if they go wide receiver round 1, I almost think this would have to be their guy. And I almost do wonder, because they have all these smaller, lighter guys in the mix, if DeAndre Hopkins is ultimately their target for a go-to volume number 1. Could draft Quentin Johnson here. I love his tools. He's my wide receiver 1. Love what he could be as a satellite yards after the catch weapon, but also, of course, as that deep element into the offense. And maybe he could be what Kenny Galladay was supposed to be for the Giants. Then the Cowboys take Lucas Van Ness at 26. I definitely think he's going before this, but what an absolute steal this would be for the Cowboys. Now, do they need defensive end? No. This would be BPA, without a doubt. And, come to think about it, is Bijan Robinson gone yet? I don't think so. If Bijan's on the board, I got a hard time thinking that's not going to be the pick for Jerry Jones and company. But if it's Lucas Van Ness, his movement skills, familiarity playing on the inside, and explosive get off, turning that into power, those stunts and twists that Dan Quinn has really utilized since becoming the DC in Dallas, he becomes a really interesting fit. Granted, he'd be stepping into a pretty busy room, with Sam Williams there, Tank Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, and Micah Parsons, of course. Maybe a little too crowded to see the field, but ask Philadelphia how loading up at edge and defensive line depth has worked out. I would tell you, I would venture to say that Howie Roseman would sing the praises of that as a draft strategy. So, may not be the end of the world, may not be the absolute best pick when it comes to drafting a starter right here for Dallas, but the value is hard to deny here. And then Darnell Wright goes to the Bills. This is a great Spencer Brown kind of contingency, whether it's interior offensive line or a tackle here. I haven't gone Darnell Wright in any of my mocks for the Bills, but I really don't hate that pick whatsoever. And I almost wonder if DeJuan Jones, I've been saying he fits best in an offense with a mobile quarterback. Yeah, Josh Allen's not as fast as Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields, but damn, he uses his legs just as much as those guys. So I almost wonder if that would force defenses to rush contain and help, alleviate some of the maybe weaknesses that DeJuan Jones does have in his games. But whether it's him or Darnell Wright, I think this is a really interesting ad here at 27, and something I'm going to have to consider in my future mocks, because I'm just not sure Spencer Brown's that guy. And I almost do wonder, he's a big guy, but maybe he could even move inside to guard and be an upgrade over Ryan Bates. I just wonder if that could be a fit. Then the Bengals at 28 take Michael Mayer, hometown kid, and they could definitely use an upgrade at tight end. This makes a lot of sense. He's the second tight end off the board, which he's still my tight end 1, but I do get the allure of a Dalton Kincaid. I actually think there's more sureness and certainty that comes to Michael Mayer, and I think I said this even during the Jeremiah mock, where it's like, do you want to chase the upside and potential specialness that is Dalton Kincaid or even a Luke Musgrave, and the uniqueness that is Darnell Washington's blocking ability, plus what is untapped as a receiver? Or do you want to just go with the guy that you know what you're getting? And that's Michael Mayer. And I can see the Bengals being a team where it's like, hey, second tight end off the board. We like Darnell Washington. He'd be a great blocker, and we could certainly use that. But we know what Michael Mayer is going to be. He's just going to be solid, stable. He's going to get open. He's got soft hands. He can work the middle of the field at a high level. He can find the soft spots and something. He can just do the things that we need him to do. We have the special with Jamar Chase. We have special in T. Higgins. We just need someone who's consistent and reliable, and that's exactly Michael Mayer. Then at 29, the Saints take Felix Enudike-Ozama. Could totally see him being, the Saints guy. It's, in some of my mocks, I've had Myles Murphy fall this far, and if it's not him, Felix Enudike-Ozama actually makes a lot of sense. Good athlete, solid frame. And Cam Jordan and Peyton Turner are both like 270 plus, or Cam Jordan might be 265, memory serves, but they're both bigger guys, so getting in a guy who's working in the 250s, I don't think it's the end of the world, but also 255. I think that was a solid weight for Enudike-Ozama to check in at the combine. The question is, does he play like that? Does he play at that weight, or is that just his combine weight? That remains to be seen. And honestly, I'd be interested to see once he gets drafted what that listed weight is, but I digress. The Saints could use another edge rusher. They prioritize having 3 guys, and Enudike-Ozama would be an awesome add behind Turner and Cam Jordan, and also open up the door for him to be potentially Cam Jordan's replacement, which is something the Saints have got to address, and got to address it pretty quickly. The Eagles then take Mozzie Smith. Yeah, I'm just not really on this hype train for Mozzie Smith in the first round. And also, didn't you draft Jordan? Didn't you not only draft Jordan Davis last year, didn't you move up to leapfrog the Ravens to draft Jordan Davis last year? Who's this guy who's this Planet 3, awesome athlete, big guy that's there to stop the run with a little bit of pass rush upside? Yeah, that's him, right? What also sounds like we're kind of describing what Mozzie Smith wishes he was described at. A lot of people like Mozzie Smith, but if you were to compare them as prospects, Mozzie Smith is the B-level version of what Jordan Davis was in last year's draft. He just is. So I really don't get it. If they're going to go defensive line here, I'd go in a different direction. And that begs the question, is Kalijah Kancey gone? Because if they're going to go interior defensive line, give me Kalijah Kancey. I know Brzez's gone, but memory serves, Kancey has not been taken just yet. So if that were the case, I would definitely like that fit a lot more for the Eagles. Maybe I just overlooked it and didn't go back far enough. But anyways, Jalen Hyatt then to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, winning the Super Bowl kind of showcases that they didn't necessarily miss the speed of Tyreek Hill. I have to be careful saying that because Tyreek Hill he's Planet Theory in his own right because his speed, every defense has to change how you address Kansas City. But, they did win a Super Bowl without him, which that's as big of an impressing bullet point on Patrick Mahomes' future Hall of Fame resume that there is. But it wouldn't hurt to get that guy back and that type of speed back in the offense, right? So Jalen Hyatt, he can play inside and out. I say that primarily worked in the slot at Tennessee, but based off wide receiver alignments, it's pretty much basically where wide receivers play on the outside. Plus, a little bit small maybe, but if you miss him with the line of scrimmage, he's getting behind you. So it's hit or miss, and it's a risk-reward proposition trying to press Jalen Hyatt. And also, the NFL's moving towards more zone coverage and more off coverage than man press. It's a very different league than what it was 15 years ago where everyone's trying to run man press. So I think that aged Jalen Hyatt as well and kind of takes away what maybe could be a weakness for him at the next level. They could go edge here. And depending on how you feel about Darian Kinnard, I'm kind of I liked him a lot coming out of Kentucky. I thought they got him as a great value on day 3 last year. I'm almost just ready to see him play, right tackle for Kansas City. But if you're not comfortable with that, Darnell Wright, if he were available, or DeJuan Jones could be in play here. But they also moved on from Orlando Brown Jr. for a different guy. So I don't know if DeJuan Jones would necessarily be their type because a lot of people are comping him to Orlando Brown Jr. And I can see that just because they're big, physical maulers with a lot of strength in their profile. Anyways, we're not talking about Jalen Hyatt. Adding speed back in the wide receiver room is really, really interesting. I prefer them to just add a possession type. MVS has speed. Sky Moore has plenty of speed. Kadarius Toney is all speed, and he does other things too. But he is a very fast guy, so I think you're going to kind of have this, But as a vertical-based speed guy, those other guys do it in other areas, in other ways. Gadget working underneath, option routes for Toney. Yeah, I don't hate it whatsoever, but I'd probably go edge here instead for Kansas City. But that is going to do it for my reaction to Charles Davis's first 2023 mock draft of the draft season. Solid, and it's always interesting because he is not Daniel Jeremiah, and he's not like me doing these week in and week out. This is his first one, and we're less than a month away, or right about a month away from the NFL draft. So I do want to give him a little bit of slack there. I'll give him an 84. And some of the stuff in here was a little perplexing, but I understand it. This is not what he does full time, and he's a great analyst. And again, him and Ian Eagle are my favorite NFL broadcast duo. But that is going to do it for my reaction. And let me know your favorite broadcast duo down below in the comment section. I think that's a fun discussion to be had. But also, what would you grade this mock draft? Whether it's a letter grade or number grade, like I gave it an 84. Let me know what you would give it down below in the comments section. Love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. And of course, who's your favorite team? And did you like the pick that Davis gave your squad? Let me hear your thoughts and reflection on the pick down below in the comment section. But that's going to do it for me. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe if you're new. But until next time, my name is Teach, and I am signing off.